So I don't know if you remember that movie, Real Steel. It was a robot combat sports movie from years ago. It had Hugh Jackman in it. That is now a real thing. So the Unitree robots just came up with a robot fighting competition.
Well, this is another point, I believe.
We are now living in the future. I'm Brogan Pratt, and I've been teaching robotics to students for over 10 years now. And today, in this video, we're breaking down what the Unitree combat robotics boxing robot thing was all about. We'll take some clips from the actual event they had a few days ago, and then we'll talk about what that might mean in terms of the future of how robotics development is moving on. So a little bit of background into this. They called it the Unitree Ironfist King Awakening. And Unitree is the guys that have been making the G1 robot you've been seeing around probably. Basically, they're making humanoid robots. And they had a bit of a feature showcase to show off what some of these robots can do. So this is a G1 robot. And while it's real speed, that's surprisingly impressive for a robot to be able to box like that. I know it looks like it is quite lame and is throwing some pretty gassed punches. But the fact that robotics is getting to the point where it's able to do that now and have those sensors and its actuators running in a real-time movement is seriously impressive in a very short period of time. They also pulled out one of the engineers. It's pretty impressive how this thing has some dynamic balancing capabilities. It knows where it is in space. It knows when it's fallen on the ground. It's got some sort of IMU sensor or some sort of impact sensors on different panels in it. So it's aware of where it is in the space, and it knows to be able to get up. I mean, look at that thing just pick itself up off the ground. I mean, that does look a bit like quite human. Leaning itself up on its elbow, getting itself up on its knee to be able to get back in. Now, obviously, it's not at a point where it knows where things are, but if you can think of these robots even from just like 5 years ago or even 2 years ago, it is wild the difference that these things are making. We can even see it able to make some kicks. Now, the engineer is obviously not throwing out full punches here. But again, this is a bit of a tech demo. This is from Unitree's actual channel, so they're not going to be showing their robot off in a poor way either. So this is the G1, but they also had an actual robotic competition. They made this thing like a full live stream. If you go to CGTN on YouTube, you can check out, I think it's a full hour-and-a-half stream.
Look at the maneuvering capabilities of all the robots, and now I can see the ring is set, and let's bring you to Hangzhou, and you can see that all those robots.
So they've even tried to make this feel like a real boxing event.
They are getting ready, and the atmosphere is there, and you can see that the contestants, they are getting ready with their operators. And
so let's actually take a look at one of these matches.
Very quickly, get into the second round. All right, round 2. Getting ready, go. All right, you can see that this second round starts with the kick.
So I think their commentary needs a little bit of work. One thing I think that's important to note here is you can see in the Mac corner that there are drivers moving these things. These are not fully autonomous robots. They're not using camera vision. They're not using audio vision to sense where the other robot is. They do have some of these sensors in a way that it will interact with their environment, but it's not fully autonomous. It is controlled, and you can see that there are some drivers using these with a controller. The Unitree website also advertises that it's capable via voice commands as well, so I would assume it would be something simple like left punch, right hook, things along those lines. So we can see that it's not able to sense out where these robots are. But let's take a look at its ability to recover some of these punches. So let's see. We'll look at this pink robot here. It's about to take a hit, and we'll see how it's able to recover itself from that punch. Oh, or maybe it's just running away from itself. Oh no, here we go. So we see that it catches itself, stumbles, it throws a kick, it's not quite fully balanced, but it's able to get itself back into that fighting game again. Now, it's a pretty impressive feat of engineering because you have to think about the human body itself is quite complex. And even just the arm and the elbow is quite a complex joint. You have a wrist that is fully articulating in a revolute position. You have an elbow that is, again, fully articulating again. And then you've got a shoulder capsule as well. Now, one of the things that I get asked a lot about in these robots is why make a robot that's in the shape of a human? Like, there's no reason why these robots couldn't have wheels as they're walking around. And one of the important things to think about and to realize is that the world itself is built for human beings. And because the world is built for human beings, we need to be able to create environments that robots can interact with those environments. We wouldn't want to create an environment specifically for a robot because now you're not able to adapt that to what humans have. So for instance, when you look at warehouses and the shelves where those things are placed, when you look at inside fast food restaurants, if you look at inside being a server, if you look at inside a mail delivery truck, they're all built for human-shaped points. And because literally the entire world is built for people who have 2 movable legs, 2 movable arms, and the joints that we have, making a robot in the shape of a human makes the most sense because it means that robot, despite not being perfectly built for its environment, is most likely to be adaptable for its current environment. Now, obviously, these things aren't perfect. There are definitely some bloopers in here. Let's take a look at this falling down.
It's just so similar. Oh, this is a fantastic kick. Look at them. And this is like a push, more like a...
Again, their commentary definitely needs some work.
Well, this is another point, I believe. Wow, this is another key punch. 1, 2, 3, wow.
Then takes a little face plant there or so. So again, these things are not perfect, but look at this recovery.
Both fell down on the ground.
So it's able to recover itself, pick it back up. Despite its arm literally folding over itself, it does look a lot like how a human self would pick up. Like, let's take a look at this black robot as it tries to catch itself from the fall.
Punch. 1, 2, 3.
So that right arm does come out just a little bit to attempt to pick itself up from that fall. And we can see more of these drivers over here. There's a man here in a brown sweater and a man here in that gray shirt moving those things around. So there's things to think about. Is this going to become a new sport? At its current state, probably not. I don't know how many people are going to want to watch that, that Real Steel again. Maybe might make a good movie, maybe not a good sport at its current state in time. I think when you look at sports, you've also got an interesting aspect to think about in this kind of like digital doping. What does steroids look like for a robot? Does someone has a more advanced AI than another person? If you rip out the camera sensors from your opponent, is that a legal or an illegal move? How does that work from the world of BattleBots over to the worlds of mecha fighting? But while this does speak as kind of a bit of a silly aspect about these robots, it does go to show you just how far robotics has come. And again, these are human controlled, but this is a very advanced robot moving around. Yes, we could probably beat these things up, no problem, if they're going to power down or what have you. We're not at a point where robots are going to be taking over the world at this point, but we're getting awfully close to the point where robots are going to start taking over some sort of lower skilled labor. And that's something that we're seriously going to have to grapple with. When we look at how these things are able to throw punches, how these things are able to throw kicks, knees, these kind of things, we really have to be careful and cognizant of how these things might start replacing some of that lower skilled labor inside of the world. You can think about these robots in a way where they're able to throw punches. You could easily translate that to a robot picking up a box and moving it onto a shelf. Well, I say easily translate, but you can see how the movements themselves will translate to. And we know at a point where camera vision is getting to a point where it's far more reliable being able to pick out what real objects are. I know Tesla's coming with a bit of a robo-taxi We'll see how accurate that is as time goes by, but computer vision is advancing really quickly, as are sensors inside these robots. And a big part of this as well is the cost of these robots coming down dramatically, and the cost of all the sensors and motors to go into these things is dramatically reducing. And because we can produce these things for so much cheaper, and these things could run for 24 hours a day. Right now, our warehouses, one of the big points and hanging and sticking points is that you cannot make people work 24 hours a day. You'd literally kill people from exhaustion. I mean, we've seen that in some of the horrific uses in the past, trying to have people work through long times and work through many, many hours. You cannot have people work that long. We need to sleep. We need to eat. It's really important. So having been able to have robots do this means that you've now got a 24-hour manufacturing period. But because you've got that manufacturing period now, you're now going to have to worry about, well, what happens to folks who were doing those low-skilled labor, that low-skilled labor? Where do they go? Especially because robotics is advanced to a point where realistically, we could be in the next 3 years replacing a lot of these low-skilled jobs. Even things like restaurants. There's a few restaurants now, I believe there's one down in Minnesota or some other southern state, has completely replaced its drive-through customers with a large language model. So they don't need to have people working in the back on that large language model. They don't need to have people in the back responding to people anymore. It's now a large language model talking with you. So while this seems like it's just a sport, it really does speak to a much broader potential impact we could have on our society in general and where things are going. And I really do think the next 3 years, you're likely going to see some of these robots start to come out onto the manufacturing floor. You look at things like Boston Dynamics are doing this. You look at what Unitree are doing. You look at what Clone Robotics are doing. A lot of these robotic startups are coming out and creating some really impressive humanoid robots that could realistically reduce some of these jobs. And I don't think us as a society have really had a serious conversation. But what do we do when the low-skilled labor goes away? Because you can't just let these people go and be jobless. Unemployment is going to spark dramatically. And to be honest, I don't really have a good answer for that. I've heard people talk about universal basic income, and that sounds like a good idea, but I'm not very intelligent when it comes to politics and how these things start to impact the world on a large scale. That's not really my kind of wheelhouse. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think we'll do as societies in general when we start to reduce some of these low-skilled jobs? Will other low-skilled labor be able to come up? Are these things going to be at the point where eventually they become weatherproof and they can be out at all hours of the day cleaning up society? Is it going to become that more utopia? Is it going to be more of a billionaires getting richer and being able to just reduce a lot of that labor class? Because yes, I do need to pay someone so many dollars per hour or so many euro per hour. But if I could have a robot for 24 hours a day and just charging this thing up, it would make a huge reduction in my labor costs. So I hope you had fun checking out real steel in action now. It's pretty crazy how it's gotten to the point where now it is society could legitimately have robotic fighting events outside of things that are battle bots and legitimately built for combat robotics, but having these kind of humanoid robots building in. If you found some value in this, consider giving this video a like. And then if you want to get more robotics tutorials, talk more about robotics in the news, things like that, please consider subscribing as well. So I hope you have a good one and best of luck on your next robotics project.